All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Markus Neukom. Markus, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Hey, thank you so much, Kevin. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be really good. I want to start off just really quick. I want to give a shout out to Jennifer Hill because Jennifer was the one that introduced you and I, Marcus. And what is
Indeed.
so beautiful about that is, I absolutely love Jennifer. I love who she is. I love how she shows up. And when she's like, Kevin, I want to introduce you to somebody, and here's why. I mean, I because of who it comes from, is that's what makes it all work and stuff.
Yeah,
And that right there is such a testament to the power of right relationships, which is what this podcast is all about. And
to some
so
degree.
yeah, and you and I, we got to connect. We got to have a conversation and get to know each other. And through that, I was like, oh man, Marcus, I've got to interview you for the podcast and stuff. And so I'll just, I mean, just from our conversation and getting to know each other, uh, you have an extremely valuable skill set because you serve two specific types of entrepreneur, and heck, they could be same entrepreneur at different stages in their life, different stages in their business, but you work specifically with high performing entrepreneurs who are dealing with imposter syndrome, and you also work with entrepreneurs who have sold their business and now feel no sense of purpose. And I'll tell you, the imposter syndrome thing. What I have discovered, I mean, for one, I've certainly dealt with this myself, and
Bless
I
them,
can
huh?
tell you from having conversations with as many entrepreneurs as I have had over the years, it doesn't matter how successful somebody is. It doesn't matter how big of a business they run. It doesn't matter how great things look from the outside looking in. We are all doing the best we can with what we got. And there are entrepreneurs that you would look at from the outside looking in and think like, man, they are on top of the world, but yet they still deal with this imposter syndrome of
Yeah,
who the heck do I think I am trying to do
yeah,
this, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
And
We'll
so,
definitely talk more about that because that's exactly what you're saying. It's usually the people from the outside in. You know, I am privileged to work with those people. And they say to me, Marcus, I'm a beacon of hope in society, right? I said, yeah, I know. Do you know what they would think if they knew how I regard myself?
yeah,
I said, yeah, they'd be quite surprised.
yeah,
It's actually the thing which triggers me so much, finding out why is that? We will surely talk about what kind of people actually suffer from imposter syndrome and which don't, which
yeah,
is very telling.
yeah,
So thank you very much for this intro, Kevin.
yeah,
Such an honor.
yeah. So, how did you get into doing this kind of work, Marcus? What's your backstory? How did we get here?
I can tell you, I have full body chills when I think of it. Do you remember when the pandemic hit?
Oh, I remember that vivid. I think everybody does.
Yeah, I was in Switzerland. Literally, everyone around me was either at the verge of or quite on the roller coaster of depression. And I kept it up for quite some time, maybe because of the work I was doing. I was
Okay.
focusing on the positive, I was focusing on purpose and potential development. And then one day, Kevin, it hit me out of the blue. And it was the first time in my life I really saw dark. It got to the point where I was sitting on my swing chair outside on my terrace, and I typed into ChatGPT, tell me whether I am still entitled to even do my work if I can't believe anymore into what I'm doing and the eligibility for doing it. That was the pivotal moment.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
answer was very clear, Marcus, especially because you are doing how you're doing right now. You are continuing. Because people, and that was the pivotal sentence, people need the authentic voice of you. They don't need the coach. They don't need the consultant. And you'll see when we go further, this was a very opening for what was to come in the next 2 years.
Mhm.
So I said to ChatGPT, provide me with 10 topics that would serve me well and serve somebody else well if I would actually share about that on LinkedIn. And guess what? Number 7 was imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
never suffered openly from imposter syndrome until that day. So I
Interesting.
said, wow, you know what? Let me give it a try. So I started typing on my keyboard and started posting stuff on LinkedIn. And the feedback, just like you, my following is quite eloquent. So I was a little bit weary to receive feedback.
Mhm.
I would say 90% very positive, confirming, asking for more. And then I had this 10% who were gentlemen who were quite close to me saying, Marcus, in private, it is so interesting what you write about. It touches deeply. However, I do not identify with the imposter syndrome thing.
Okay.
I do identify with the symptoms you talk about. I know those really well,
Mhm.
but I do not identify with imposter syndrome. So I remember when I had the second conversation with two gentlemen, and I was sitting on my terrace again, and I was asking the universe, what is it? What is it? These two gentlemen have an issue with imposter syndrome. And then the answer came out of the blue, Kevin. The actual problem is the term imposter syndrome. It's just sat there. The actual problem is the concept imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
And that's when I decided to dive deep. Because, I realized something. Despite of being in a deep depression, I never lost hope. And the actual question was, do I believe still, and those were the questions to ChatGPT. Do I still believe I have what it takes? So you see, I wasn't doubting whether I have it. I was doubting whether I believe it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this is very telling, by the way. So when you do some research with Merriam-Webster, for example, it says very clearly, imposter syndrome equals you have the proof that you have what it takes, and you still doubt yourself. And
Uh,
that's when it hit home. That's when I thought, wow, what if imposter syndrome, the term actually is the issue? And then it dawned on me. It became clear as day, Kevin, when I realized when do psychiatrists and medical doctors talk about a syndrome? That's when they don't understand what's going on, put together all different symptoms, and create a syndrome out of it. They couldn't.
yeah. Yeah.
Then I said, look, could it actually be that you have now taken on a label which the system created, and you actually paralyzed yourself by buying into imposter syndrome? which you tell me very clearly is almost unbeatable. The person just looked at me and said, Marcus, this hits home. This hits home. So I went back into, onto my swing chair again on my terrace, and I just continued the journey. And then I suddenly received a revelation. It's literally like I sat there and I just do exactly what I did at that moment. I saw the glass ceiling, which wasn't the glass ceiling, Kevin, but now it became something else. Now it became here is the atmosphere,
Okay.
and here is space. And in between is this little membrane, right? So everything in terms of our belief system happens here in the atmosphere. And everything that is beyond our belief system, everything that is beyond our belief we can do it, everything that is potential is in space.
Okay.
So I saw people in little spaceships. Can imagine how I felt in little spaceships going up toward space, and then they stopped, turned around, and went down onto safe thing again. It reminded me of Elon Musk when he created the rocket ship that actually can land again, right? So then I saw them again going up. What was interesting, every single time they went up again and tried, they went less high.
Okay.
And I thought, that is interesting. So instead of actually pushing higher and making sure they have engines, they actually even stronger, they actually stop even before. And then it dawned on me. Then the level came where they said, oh, Marcus, this is as good as it gets. I don't even try anymore.
Wow.
Then I understood. That's what the world has become. People have settled for as good as it gets. And Kevin, that's when I understood the days where I am a business consultant and help people to make more profit. The day where I'm an executive coach to help people heal from stuff they have self diagnosed and become better so they can make more were most likely numbered because I understood what I'm actually doing is dealing with symptoms of a much more grave issue. So I understood that imposter syndrome is literally a symptom of, I had to point it somehow so people thought it sounded intelligent. So I coined it the authenticity struggle.
Okay.
And then somebody asked me, quite an intelligent person asked me, Marcus, what do you mean by authenticity struggle? And let me put it frankly. We have no bloody clue who we are. We have no bloody clue how we got where we are. And we have no bloody clue what's going on. Richard just looked at me. And Marcus, we are both beyond 50 years old. So yeah, we are. Yeah. And I said, will you see the challenge in what I just say? Every single person who wants to work with me has to go through one pivotal point in life. That's where they say, it doesn't matter how much money I made. It doesn't matter how many titles I have. It doesn't matter what the accolades I have achieved. I do not know myself as well as I wished I would. Another person then said, Marcus, explain more. And I said, look, let me use a metaphor. I call you up, Kevin, after today, and I say to you, last night I ended up in a bar and I met this guy. He probably had a little bit too many. And he invited me onto the Mount Everest, onto base camp. And actually would love you to join as well. And you will probably say, Marcus, as much as I'd love to go in the base camp, I wouldn't trust this guy who you just met last night, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But then at the same time, I call you again and I say, look, I met this guy who I got to know over time and whom I really trust. And that's the reaction, right? They say, Marcus, this is a dream of mine, going up to the base camp of the Mount Everest. And if you really trust this guy, I trust that he would get us safely up and safely down again. So the other person just looked at me and he said, tell me more. And I said, look, your inner being is your guide. Not knowing yourself, how the heck should you trust it to bring you up to the Mount Everest?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then one more pivotal moment came and I thought, wow, that is actually amazing. So it is me getting to know myself better. This is actually what I've been doing for 20 years with my clients. And probably around 75% at least openly will profess that they suffered from imposter syndrome. And they were very clever people, Kevin.
Yeah.
So let me add that one thing what I said in the beginning. I've never saw a lazy person, an arrogant person suffering from imposter syndrome. And then somebody said recently, what about CEOs who believe so highly of themselves? It's the opposite of imposter syndrome, right? No, no. It's a very coveted form of imposter syndrome. Believe you are so much above everything and everyone else. And I thought, wow. And then the last piece, and then I finish this section here, was when the universe said to me, Marcus, let me show you something. We went up to space again. It showed me my little rocket ship, and it said, Marcus, what it really is, the so-called imposter syndrome is life telling you the mission you're on right now is worth it. And all you need to do is to trust that your little rocket ship is built strong enough so you can go through this little membrane and into space where the ultimate potential lies. That's exactly what brought me on the journey.
Yeah.
That was probably 3-4 hours, which I have now brought together.
Yeah.
But that was the pivotal change when I realized, gosh, I need to help people who settled with as good as it gets, whose soul has the battle cry of, is this as good as it gets?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is there more to my life?
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, there's a lot of people that are feeling that and asking
Mhm.
themselves that question. Is this as good as it gets? Or maybe another version of that question.
Yeah,
I thought I'd be so much further along by now, you
yeah,
know, and I had a friend of mine, a few years back told me, because we were talking about this whole thing, imposter syndrome. And he's like, Kevin, he said, he's like, the real imposters, they never even question themselves about, do I have imposter syndrome? Because they don't give a damn.
He's right.
and
Yeah,
and
he's
uh,
right.
and yet the people who question themselves, if they are dealing with it, they're the ones that are like they're just the really like heart-centered people that
Yeah,
want to make a big difference,
yeah, yeah,
and yet they feel like, who do I think I am, trying to
yeah,
achieve this or do this or what have you,
yeah, yeah.
so I
So, as
really.
an encouragement, I can absolutely recommend to read Marianne Williamson's poem, The
Okay.
Deepest Fear.
Uh-huh.
our
Mhm.
deepest fear. It's
Yeah.
not that we are inadequate, it's that we are beyond
Yes.
imagination.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But literally look at it as the universe telling you, as life telling you, or if you want to believe in God, as God telling you, you are on a worthwhile mission. And now all it takes is to find the proof you need. And that's usually, by the way, in your past. Because successful people, ambitious people have had those successes along the
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
And all they need to do is to go back into their journey and find out what kind of ingredients actually led to that success.
Yeah. 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 That is good stuff right there. Well, that was really powerful, Marcus. And we boy, I'm sure there's people listening to this right now going, you know what? Um, I want to have more of a conversation with Marcus. Maybe he might be able to help me, or maybe I know somebody that I want to
Mhm,
connect him with, and we'll make sure that we don't leave you hanging and stuff. But I do want to switch gears just a little bit, not too
mhm,
much, but I'm going to reiterate the question around relationships for the
mhm.
benefit of our listeners. So, Marcus, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
I could literally use several episodes to thank those people.
Yeah, right.
But in the last passage of my life, there is this one young guy, and his name is Nate Wild.
Okay.
Nate Wild. So I came across several people who introduced me to one platform called My Most Trusted. And My Most Trusted has this kind of a reward system that if you make a number of introductions, if you reach out to people, you gain brownie points basically.
Okay.
And you see, the only competition I have is myself usually. So I thought, what if I just actually do what it takes and see where it gets me? So without the shortest time, I received that level, which was called Super Connector. And when I reached the Super Connector level, funny enough, I entered a elite group, and guess who I met there? Nate Wild.
Okay.
So the owner, Scotty, had that thing that when you reach Super Connector, he's going to make introductions to other Super Connectors. And one of them was Nate Wild. So I remember it was a Saturday morning. I went on a call that afternoon. I went on a call with him. And after 10 minutes, Kevin, he said, Marcus, what are you doing this afternoon? I just met that young guy. I think he's in his 20s.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
53, so almost double of his age.
Uh-huh.
And something inside me said, whatever you have on your calendar, it's going to be scrapped. So you're going to clear your calendar and you show up. It was that clear when he asked that message. What are you going this afternoon? And I said, you know what, Nate? Whatever it is, my calendar is empty. And you'll be not surprised when I say to you who he actually introduced me to. He introduced me to Jennifer Cahill's group
Okay.
this very afternoon. And that literally changed the trajectory of my path here in the US.
Wow.
It
Wow.
literally changed the trajectory because he took so much belief, like I asked him in hindsight, like, how did you know? And he said, Marcus, to be honest, I didn't. But I felt, I sensed that I have to make this introduction for you. I felt that I have to bring you into this group, that you have to meet Jennifer. And if you think about what this young guy actually triggered as the first domino here in the US, it's almost unfathomable what that actually resulted in the meantime.
Yeah. Yeah. So what has happened in your life since being introduced to that group?
You know what's interesting? I just gave some thought. It was the first time, Kevin, since the pandemic
Uh-huh.
that I showed up, didn't doubt myself, and I just said, "Hi, I'm Marcus.
Mhm.
This is who I am, and I'm here to stay."
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
So it was literally a rite of passage, which Nate initiated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Wow.
I was on the call, I don't know, we had like 20 or 30 people at that moment. And, you had to introduce yourself.
Uh-huh.
I just thought, yeah, why not actually introduce myself as who I really am? Not, hi, I'm an executive coach or a business consultant, but literally with my heart, with my soul, what I really burn for, what I'm here to do. Because you know Jennifer really well, and she's a visionary.
Yes, she
She
is.
has surrounded herself with these kind of people, and they would not have flown for BS consultant and executive coach style.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would have not. And I remember this introduction literally opened the doors. Literally opened the doors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would say he literally helped me regain the belief in myself again
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
introduced me to the group which was actually interested in what I was talking about debunking imposter syndrome and not saying like, what are you talking about? They immediately got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I spoke about, I'm helping people who say, is this as good as it gets? After I have sold my company for $500 million, crying, calling my friend and saying, I am lost. Who can you share that with?
Yeah.
Most people would say, oh, yeah, that kind of a problem I really would love to have.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
those people could relate because those were the ones who had sold their companies and
Yes.
had no purpose anymore,
Yes.
right? Those were the ones who went on stages and were admired. And then I met them in their living room through Zoom, totally different person.
Yeah.
And I literally believe, Kevin, that the universe has used Nate for me to get to know Jennifer Hill's group, to understand that there is a league of entrepreneurs that really need what I bring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, I'll tell you, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation today and just share from your heart. And for anybody who might be listening to this and thinking, like, man, Kevin, I really love Marcus. I love who he is. I love how he shows up. I love what he's shared. And I might be dealing with some of this stuff myself, or maybe I know somebody who is. And any resources, any websites we can share with some folks?
You see, the easy thing is literally share my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
go on LinkedIn, use Marcus with a K, Neukom, my last name, and you'll see my photograph immediately. Send me a connection request, message. Let's either message, let's get on a call. I would love to get in touch.
Okay. Perfect.
Especially if you feel, whoever listens or watches now, if you feel this can't be it, there must be more. Please get in touch.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Marcus, any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap today?
There is one message. When I talk about stillness, what stillness really comes down to is remembering who you initially were before the world told you who you had to become. This is my journey I'm on with the people I accompany to help them remember who they actually are before the world told them who they had to become.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where the more lies.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, I'll tell you, I can tell you from personal experience, um, when we realize who we actually are and how powerful we actually are, um, that man, that's a game changer right there.
Yes.
And because the beautiful thing is that everything we need we already have. It's all within
Absolutely.
us already.
Yes.
And
Yes.
once we realize that and we can just show up and be our genuine self, like my buddy
Yep.
Jesse always says, I've got nothing to hide and nothing to prove.
Yep.
And
Yep.
being able to come from that place, you
Yep.
know what? We just attract the right people into our world,
Yep.
and while simultaneously deflecting the ones that are not a right fit.
Yep. I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. Because, people sometimes wonder, like, what is this stillness thing about your talk? And I say, no, it's not meditation, which meditation is great. I'm a meditator myself. It's not yoga. I do yoga as well, but it's not. It is actually the opposite of absence of action. Stillness means a coherence between our thoughts and our heart. And when that coherence is existent, that opens the path and the channel for your soul to speak. So, quite often, Kevin, when I meet somebody, it's for the first time in that person's life that they hear their soul speak. And all I do in those conversations, I just sit here like I am right now, and I'm just quiet.
Yeah.
I just hold space. I just give you one example. Somebody would suddenly say, Marcus, I've never looked at it like this. And I smirk because I haven't said a word. It was that person's soul starting to reveal things to that person. Or another one said, Marcus, I've never shared this with anyone. And we are on my podcast now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I feel I need to share it. That's when stillness works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you know, I shared with you this before. This is why I am going on so many podcasts, because the message of stillness has to be shared.
Yeah.
The noise has to be pierced with stillness. Because, we're so mind driven. Numbers, data, facts. And all we have in mind is basically put on us from outside.
Yeah.
And stillness is the soul finally being able to speak, to whisper. The soul whispers, it doesn't shout, it whispers. And it's the soul who asks you, Kevin, is this as good as it gets? Isn't there more? It's not like, how can I get to the next 100 billion? No, the soul whispers, is what you're doing right now really the thing you ought to do? Is this the reason why you are alive? Or
Yeah.
is there more? And that's when we get into legacy.
Yes.
That's why
Yes.
I'm saying, let's actually live a legacy, LIVE, instead of leave a legacy behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's about having meaning, being meaning. And the last thing I want to leave your viewers with is the build it and and it will come. I believe is a fallacy. I think the key is be it and it will become. Because if you are you attract.
Yeah.
If you build it, you push it away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But being is the magnet.
Yeah.
Being is the magnet. It
Amen.
literally comes down to remember who you were before the world told you who you had to become.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, once again, I want to thank you so much for taking the
It's my
time to
pleasure.
have this conversation. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, Marcus. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.